Hi, everybody. Welcome to my stream. My name is Lauren Sevier, and today we're going to be talking about cover copies. I want to take the time to welcome anyone who's watching the replay. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk for a little while. So the first thing that I think I want to do while we're kind of waiting for people to pop in is go over like some introductions and a couple of like general ground rules for the stream today. My name is Lauren Sevier. I am an author, YouTuber, and mom from down home, Louisiana. I have been developmentally editing manuscripts since 2012, doing cover copy, ghostwriting articles, papers, and blog posts, as well as several different like review forums, etc. One of the really cool things that I got to do a year or so ago now was I got to go to Vermont and meet a lot of different people to actually help me figure out a few things about cover copies and writing in general and marketing in general that I probably never would have met them in my entire life if it weren't for that experience. So basically, I don't know. I get a lot of questions about cover copies in different writers groups that I'm in, and I wanted to sort of give a forum so that y'all can ask any questions that you have, and I can show you a live edit today so that I can hopefully, alleviate some of that, because I feel like a lot of the most brilliant writers are not the most brilliant marketers because it's not a creative endeavor. Marketing, it's sales. So cover copy is definitely more in the marketing sphere than the creative sphere. And so that's why I'm sort of hosting the event today. We're going to probably take a little second here to see if anyone else kind of pops in. But definitely introduce yourself in the chat. Submit your questions. Do the things. All of that. Because that would be super fun, I think. For my channel, I haven't done a ton on my YouTube channel this year. I work full-time in cardiology, as well as publishing and editing and all the other writerly things that I do. And so because we're in the middle of a pandemic, some things sort of had to take the back burner, and YouTube was one of them. But I'm really excited to go into like the next quarter and the next year with more regularly scheduled and uploaded content, hopefully stuff that will help people, because I think that this community is really great about being the tide that raises all boats, because we're all writers. So yeah. Some of the ground rules for the stream today is if we get a ton of questions and I've already answered one or more times, I do have a moderator who's in the chat who will just kind of let you know that I've answered the question already. That way, we're not repeating information too many times. And we can make sure that everybody's questions get answered before the stream ends. Other than that, it's pretty free reign. Drop your questions as they come, and I will do my best to make sure that I answer all of them before the stream is over. So yeah, I think that's it as far as ground rules go. If you have a question, or like if you want to submit your cover copy for a live edit during the stream, you can do that by emailing me. My email and all of my socials and all of my links and things are in the description box below. It's lauren@laurensevier.com. But I'll probably put that up in a banner later. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat if you have not already, because I would like to say hello to you and welcome you to the stream. Anybody? Of course, the comments are a little bit slow on StreamYard to come from YouTube too, so there's that. Also, I kind of want to go over something right off the bat, like what is a cover copy? I think a lot of people, whenever they saw that I was doing this post, they were kind of like, what's she talking about? What's a cover copy? I've even had authors like reach out to me since starting the event saying like they didn't know what that term was. And so basically a cover copy is the summarization on the back of a book It goes on your cover, and the type of editing that you do for it is copy editing. You don't need developmentals. Usually copy editing is, whenever it's that short, is so all-inclusive that I'm like stumbling over my words tonight. I need to drink some more coffee. Hang on. Anyway, you don't really need a ton of like proofreading for that generally, because they're not very long. In today's day and age, cover copies have been called many things: a blurb, a back cover copy. I just go with cover copy. I think that's just the thing that most people know if they know the term at all. It's definitely a marketing tool. It's not a creative exercise. So there's that. Hi, Cammie. Thanks for coming. Glad to have you here. Hello, Abby. Nice to see you. And why is a cover copy important? That is another thing that I get a lot. Why does it matter? For a lot of different reasons. Depending on which way you're planning to publish, if you're planning on doing self-publishing or indie publishing or hybrid publishing, you may be responsible for creating your own cover copy. Typically, if you're planning to query and then traditionally publish, they will have someone to assist you with cover copy, and you're going to have an editor assigned to you for those projects. However, if you're not yet in the querying stage, doing a cover copy or a mock cover copy or working on it is actually a really good way to help get your query really tight and concise, because it forces you to think about different like elements of your story in a different way, in a way that you're selling your book to somebody. And that's what a query is doing. You're selling an agent or a publisher on picking up your work. So it's pretty much a good exercise for any writer to do for their book, or maybe just to write a really awesome one for Nano next year for your project, whatever your need may be. At any time, y'all can start asking questions about cover copies that you have. You can email me, lauren@laurensevere.com. If you have like longer questions or you want to send me a snippet of your work, just so you know. Just trying to see if anyone's going to kind of file in. I don't want to go too far into explanations and then they miss it. Let's see here. One of the biggest questions that I get about cover copies is about formatting and length. So any cover artist that you work with is actually going to, anyone worth their salt is going to tell you that your cover copy should be no more than maximum 250 words tops. That's pushing it. Usually staying around the 200 range is really good. The reason for that is because the purpose of the cover copy is obviously to be on the back cover of the book, and and aesthetically, I'm mad dash posting this link in all my Facebook groups. Haha. Thank you, Cammie. I appreciate that. I feel like a lot of people will probably file in a little bit later, but I didn't want anyone watching the replay to not get any sort of usable information up front too. Anyway, so aesthetically, you don't want to have big blocks of text on the back cover or the inside dust jacket flap of a physical book that you're creating. And of course, cover copies now, especially in the indie sphere, because they have some releases that are only electronic, online only, they're going to be what's on your Amazon page. They're going to be what's, anywhere really. And so the formatting part, you don't want big blocks of text. It's a visual trick for potential readers. If somebody sees big chunks of text, it looks immediately to the eye as if it's going to be hard to read. So whenever you're thinking about formatting your cover copy, you're going to want to think about things like headings and subheadings and breaking it into smaller paragraph sections. Why do you do that? Because visually on the back cover of a book, that leaves a little more open space. So visually, the reader will think it's going to be a quicker, easier read. And what you do is you hook them right at the beginning so that they actually get through the entire cover copy at the back. The reason that cover copies are important is because it's what's going to sell your book. People immediately will see a cover that they like, but right after that, the thing that they're going to do is they're either going to turn it over onto the back if it's a physical book, and they're going to read what it's about to see if it's something that they want to spend money on, or they're going to go scroll down to the description on Amazon, and they're going to read what it's about, and they're going to decide if it's what they want to spend money on. So this is actually the one thing that can turn a potential reader into a sale. So it's really important to do these right. And to look at it from a marketing point of view. That's something I think I'm really good at, is being able to objectively look at something and say, okay, why is this important? Why should we care about this story? Why should we care about this character? And kind of figuring out how to structure things in a way that it's going to make other readers want to care about them enough to buy the book too. So that's a little bit about why it's important. And a little bit about length and formatting, again, around 200, 250 words maximum. And with formatting, you're going to want to use headings, subheadings, and things like that to leave some space so that potential readers, again, when they look at it, they're not seeing these big blocks of text. Even if you think about as a writer, when you're developing a story, right? They tell you if you have these big chunks of long text, it normally drags the pace down. Well, whenever you think of sales or marketing, especially for your book, typically it's you have to sell them right away. Otherwise you're going to lose their attention and they're not going to make the purchase. They're not going to click link or the button or whatever. And so that's kind of why it's important to use headings and subheadings, is to try and convert those into sales. And I think, actually, I was doing a little research before this stream. Most of the bestsellers for 2020 actually really did a really good job of using headings and subheadings and not having very long descriptions on Amazon and stuff. So that's definitely something. Again, I'm going to keep repeating myself again as people file into the stream. You can drop questions in the chat anytime. If you have something longer, more specific you want me to look at, you can email it to me, lauren@laurensevere.com. It's in the description box below. We're just gonna, I guess, I don't know, keep rolling. Doo-doo. Later on in the stream, we will be doing a live edit of all the things. So all the things that I'm talking about, it's really easy to talk to someone and say, you should do this or not do that, right? But it's harder whenever you're sitting down at your computer or your notebook and you're trying to take your 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 word beautiful masterpiece of a manuscript and distill it into 200 words that will effectively sell your book to either an agent or to somebody, just browsing on Amazon or in Barnes and Noble. It's so much harder than people think to do that. So much love in here. I love it. Oh, so wonderful. Trying to see. So and the next thing that I want to go over, I literally just pulled a book off my bookshelf. The next thing I kind of want to go over, and again, any specific questions, drop them in the chat. I'll address them. I'll go over anything in detail you want me to. But I just pulled a random book off of my bookshelf, Aragon. And the use of the log line is something that I think most authors do incorrectly. So So first off, what is a logline? A logline is actually like a term that they use more in film and like movies and stuff. So if you're browsing through Netflix and you're looking for a show, you know, the little description under the choice, it's usually like 1 to 2 lines that summarize what the movie or the TV show is about to get you interested in watching it. So a log line is basically distilling your entire novel or the premise or the theme or the inciting incident. Basically, why should we care about this into one hook, one line, one hook. This is something that took me forever to learn, but it's something that is a really useful tool that if you can get a really succinct log line or hook, a line, 1 to 2 lines at the very beginning of your cover copy that you're going to hook readers in. It's normally going to be like a heading or something a little bit larger to kind of then go into more description later on. So that you can sell your book. So anyway, I pulled this one off of the shelf. It's the first book in a series. And the log line on this is one boy, one dragon, a world of adventure. So that's the log line for Aragon. But they did use that. They used that right there, and they used 3 different paragraphs, a heading. And so that's just like one example of a, you know, #1 New York Times bestseller, USA Today bestseller, Wall Street Journal bestseller. Like, this is what bestsellers are doing. They're using the log line approach. They're using a line at the very beginning of their cover copy to hook readers, and then they're filling in details and context for plot as you go down and read the rest of it. So, a log line. This can be different for different genres, and that's something, again, authors don't tend to take into consideration. I had the opportunity of meeting and working with a award-winning producer, and she's also a literary and talent manager in LA. Her name is Marilyn Atlas. And so what her job is to like take a book, intellectual property from a book, and to sell it to like Hulu and Netflix and Warner Brothers so that they can make it into a TV show or a movie. Like, that's her job. Her job is to sell somebody on a book and intellectual property to make it into a movie. So one of the biggest lessons that I learned from her was getting to the point and doing it quickly. Your first line should be the stakes of the book, generally speaking. This is going to be for most fiction, but again, genre by genre, there are some different like elements and stuff. For example, if you're writing nonfiction, you're not going to want to start with the stakes of a book because they don't really have stakes. You know, if you're writing a self-help book, for example, about weight loss, then what you're going to do is you're going to want to start with a log line, something catchy with a lot of buzzwords that basically encompasses what you are trying to impart to readers. You know, like lose 50 pounds in 30 days, 30 pounds in 30 days, or whatever. That's a really good hook for, like, you know, a weight loss book, right? Which is nonfiction. Whereas if you're doing like fantasy, one boy, one dragon, a world of adventure, right? Or let's see, what else we got up here? Gone Girl. Gone Girl. Sorry, this book was just like, just really sort of wrecked my whole world. This one doesn't actually have like a cover copy on it. I think I got this in a bin somewhere. Let's try a different one. I don't like that one. But I'm just pulling things off of here while we're kind of waiting for people. There's that. Trinity, the government's top secret supercomputer, is an intelligence beyond comprehension and a nightmare beyond humanity's worst fears. Greg Isles, Footprints of God. That's like a mystery type novel. So as you can tell, different log lines kind of for different genres, right? They normally have something about the stakes immediately at the beginning. From there, once you've kind of distilled the stakes, why do we care about this book? Why should we buy this book? Why should we read this book? Why should we spend, time out of our lives? That's what you want to establish right away in the very first sentence. From there, you build with context. You tell them enough about the plot, main characters, and you should also include the inciting incident in your cover copy. Why? Because you have plenty of twists and turns, but they need to know about the moment that propels, your characters into action, and that's usually the inciting incident. Let's see. Tammy says, I'm worried about making my blurb juicy enough. That is a very, very common fear. So making it juicy enough, meaning you're afraid to, I don't know, give away too much in your cover copy. Like you're going to give away too much of the plot and then it won't benefit readers, or making it juicy enough as in you don't know how to, I guess, spice up the language, or what is it exactly do you mean by juicy enough? Tell me that in the comments and I can kind of touch on that a little bit more. Because that is a common fear a lot of authors have is, they want to hold back. And that's my next lesson. Don't hold back. That was one of my talking points, actually. So you definitely should not hold back the inciting incident of your novel in your cover copy. Why not? Because if you think about story structure, a lot of us are plotters or outliners, or some of us are pantsers who end up through several drafts, like figuring out a general story structure. If you've read Save the Cat Writes a Novel or any craft book, they're going to tell you the basics, right? They're going to tell you, you start with like a first image, who this character is in the world that they live in. And then there's an inciting incident that like upsets their world and it propels them into the second act of the story, right? And so that's what you want to tell people in your cover copy. What changed? What happened that made us care about this person? Because now something is going to happen to them because of this inciting incident. You want them to have that in the, in the body, at least, of the cover copy, if not directly in the log line. Oh, Dal's here. Hi, Dal. Love you. You were so sweet today on Twitter to me. You hold back a lot of things. So the thing is about like stories is that you normally have several twists and turns and unexpected events. So if you tell somebody about the inciting incident, you're not telling them the big plot twist, 2/3 of the way into the novel. You're not telling them any of those things. So you shouldn't be afraid to get a little bit deep in there. You want them to be interested enough so that they can read the entirety of the story, so they can get the full picture of everything. So you do need to kind of let them know with like a carrot. You need to give them a carrot or like a treat. Like, hey, this exciting thing is going to happen and you're going to want to read about it because it's awesome and it's going to be really interesting and you're not going to want to put this book down, My biggest problem with a lot of cover copies is that they tell too much and so can already predict the whole book. This is also true. It's about striking balance. You don't want to tell the entire plot, but you do want to give an accurate expectation to readers of what they can expect of the book. Because one thing I think people don't understand a lot of is like the reason that a lot of books get bad reviews, especially indie books, because we're doing our own marketing and advertising, is we're not attracting the right readers. You want to attract readers who want to read your kind of book. So you have to give enough information in your cover copy to accurately depict your book so that they kind of know what to expect in a sense and know what they're getting so that they can buy a book that they're going to enjoy and then review well and recommend to other people. So that, again, here's this cycle. You're building a readership through word of mouth and advertising and making sure that you're actually reaching your target demographic. You don't want to get a bunch of sales that are just like people who you're not really targeting, and then they review your book badly because they start reading it and it's not exactly what they had imagined after reading the description. You know what I mean? So there's a balance there. Now, giving too much away, don't give the whole plot away. Don't give the plot twists away. You definitely shouldn't do that. But you should at least give a pretty accurate description. And including the inciting incident, again, is a really good way to kind of accurately depict what kind of novel a reader is going to get. Let's see. Kimmy said, I'm worried about making it exciting enough for someone to be excited to buy. Yes, that is the key, isn't it? Marilyn Atlas told me one thing so many times, and it has done wonders for me. She said a million times, she said, get to the point, get to it fast, do it in the first line. She said that to me, I think, about a million times. And that's when cover copies stopped being a mystery to me. If you get to the point really quickly, then it's really easy to, again, logline approach. You get to the point very quickly, and then you fill in some details and some context in the same style and voice as what you've written. And then readers will have the appropriate expectations. They'll be hooked and they'll want to buy your book. So how to make it exciting enough for someone to buy? First of all, who's your audience, right? Like, who are the people that you're trying to sell this book to? What are books in that genre that are selling well? What do their cover copies look like? Do they normally start with like a question log line at the beginning? Or is it like the Aragon book that I pulled off my shelf somewhere, where it's like sort of a description? Let's see. Is it a buzzworthy sort of catchy hook line? Is it a nonfiction book where you're telling them what you're going to do for them? Let's see. I got comments now, so I feel distracted. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee before it gets cold. Okay, so that's going to be part of it. Figuring out your audience, figuring out who you're selling to, and then really easy way to research is to kind of look at best-selling books in your genre. What are they doing? Because obviously what they're doing well. And if you're an indie published author, I would say best-selling indie books in your genre. Because what are they doing? What are they doing well? They don't have, the big traditional 5 publishers behind them that have like huge advertising budgets and stuff. So if you're looking to indie publish, look at bestsellers in your genre in the indie sphere. That's a really good way to sort of compare, I guess. Let's see. Can I give you my cover copy and get your feedback? Yes, you can. Oh, Abby answered it for me. Yes, you can email it to me or any of my socials. Yes, you can do that. Let me know if you have done that, and I will absolutely give you advice. I love giving advice on cover copies. I'm a sucker for it. I am a sucker for cover copies. It is like the bane of most authors' existence, and I thrive off of writing and editing them. It's kind of a sickening thing, actually. Most of my authorly friends are like, what's wrong with you? Like, this is supposed to be torturous and you have fun. The advice from Marilyn is gold. Yes, get to the point. Do it quickly. We should know in the very first line what the stakes are of this book and why we should care enough to buy it. That is definitely the best advice I've ever been given. Hey, Jenny, the right mama. Thank you so much. Multitasking, but listening. Mom life. I totally get that. I still don't know exactly who my audience is. Depending on where you are in developing your project, that's totally fine. Whenever you're writing cover copy, because it is marketing more than a creative enterprise, by the time that you're in the phase that you should be like writing cover copies and thinking about cover copies, you should be thinking about your audience and you should be thinking about your marketing plan. I actually have a marketing workbook. I don't know how great it would be for you, doll. It's really just like sort of a printout thing, and then you can kind of like fill in the lines to help you brainstorm to get like the basic structure of marketing plan whenever you're ready for that. And it kind of goes into like, who's your audience? Like, how do you find your audience? All that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Oh my God, what a cute mug. Thank you. It's a teacup. I collect teacups. Grandma chic right here. And it's like tiny, so I'm probably gonna have to refill it like 8 times, but I just really wanted to use it. But thank you. I'm gonna remember that you love reading and critiquing cover copies. Please do. I've been doing it for so long. I feel like most of the questions that I get, and most of the time that I end up spending like hours in chat, in Facebook groups, like commenting on stuff, it's on cover copies. Thank you, Abby. You're so sweet. Y'all are just showing me all the love today. I have the workbook, yes, but I don't know these things. And that's okay. Again, it's okay if you're not ready. Like if your manuscript's not at a point where it's nearing completion enough that you've like done developmental edits, you really have a good idea of theme, things like that, then you really don't need to be focused on marketing. Get your book where it needs to be first. When you start thinking about marketing, you should then figure out who is your audience, who are you marketing to? Who are the people that you're wanting to read this book? Once you know that, then all of the marketing stuff that you do has focus so that you're not doing it in vain. So you're reaching readers who, again, are going to love your book, going to review it well, recommend it to friends, and that's going to help snowball into your book being more successful because you've written this beautiful thing and you've spent so much time on it, right? Let's see here. I'm going to be using you. LOL. I work with a few other authors helping them publish. I would really love having your help. I love to help people. So that is a-okay with me. I got a notification. Let me actually find that because I think that you sent me your blurb. That is something I went over. I'm not sure if you were in the stream. So it's called several different things. It's called a blurb or a cover copy or a back cover copy. It's all the same thing. They just have different names for it. All right. Let me see if I can pull this up a little bit bigger. Come on. Excuse me, everyone, while technology thwarts me. There we go. Nope, still not right. I'm just trying to get it where I can read it because I don't have my glasses on and I'm an old lady now. Note the grandma cup. Why is it lagging so much? Come here. I don't know how to make this bigger. I'm going to copy and paste it. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste it. That way I can share my screen and then it'll be like a little bit bigger so that I can give you feedback, but everyone on the stream can kind of see what I'm doing as well, because I think we all learn that way very well. Can't seem to make my computer do the things I want them to do. Doesn't that always happen? It's like when you're live, right? Like it does it perfectly every other time. And then when you're live, it's like, nope, just kidding. Oh, so I got 2 cover copies. Yay. Let's try and share my screen. All right, everybody. So here's what Connie sent me. So the blurb that she has right now starts off, Holly wants nothing more than to forget that she was ever married. But sleeping single in a double bed gets lonely. Mark is my best friend and secret keeper since my divorce. But when our text messages turn steamy, I can't resist. I've always been so conservative, but now I can barely keep my panties from igniting. Then he suggests we take our sexting to the real world. The risk of being caught by the church gossips is worth putting our friendship on the line. I'm just not sure I can handle the friends with benefits rules. Does that mean I'm going to hell? Only heaven knows. This is actually pretty strong right off the bat. Obviously, it's a romance. It's a contemporary romance. Holly wants nothing more than to forget she was ever married. That's a pretty strong first line. I do see that there's a little bit of like a tense change happening at one point in here that's a little bit jarring for readers. Also, you use the word but a lot as a sentence opener, and word choice is really key. You're going to want to make sure that all of the words that you use are really succinct and really, really to the point, because you don't have that much space, so every word counts. Get to the point and get to it fast. Holly wants nothing more than to forget she was ever married. But is that what the point is? Is that why we should care? That's sort of the question that I have for the first line, because at the bottom here, it says the risk of being caught by the church gossips is worth it. So this sentence needs to be restructured a little. It needs to be like, is the risk of being caught by the church gossips worth putting our friendship on the line? Question mark. And then it's, oh, gotcha. First line is a tagline. So that would be on like the front cover, right? So that's cover on the front. Holly wants nothing more than forget she was ever married. And then, wait, is that supposed to be a tagline or a log line? Sorry, I have a moderator helping me with the chat. Okay, so a tagline is typically something that's going to be on the front cover. For my book, it was Defy Your Fate, which doesn't tie into the cover copy at all. This tagline actually reads more like a log line. The log line, like I explained before, is the sentence sort of at the beginning that hooks everybody. Oh, she's handed me my book. I'm so glad I have friends to help me. So, for example, yeah. So a tagline is going to be something sort of on the front cover. It's a call to action on your front cover. Mine is Defy Your Fate, right? It's a call to action. It's something on the front cover that sort of, as people look at the cover, they see a little bit of like the stakes or what you care about, like here, to entice them to get to the back cover copy, right? So then the back cover copy, this up here would be the log line. It's the first sentence of your cover copy, and it's a hook for readers so that they get into sort of the meat of your cover copy here, right? So that would be what a log line is. The log line is going to be, you think about it in terms of like, so you've written a book, you know how people do like first line frenzies. The first line of your book should be like really engaging and stuff. Like it's the first line of your book to get them to the other lines. You know, it's something that hooks readers in so that they read the rest of the cover copy. It also should immediately show the stakes. So for me, this reads more like a log line. You know, Holly wants nothing more than to forget she was ever married, right? So again, something that I would do as an editor is I would tell you to make sure you're cutting out the buts at the beginnings of the sentences. Now, because this is in sort of a different tense, but so it goes, Holly wants nothing more than to forget she was ever married, but sleeping sleeping single in a double bed gets lonely. Then she goes, Mark is my best friend and secret keeper. So we go from Holly sort of in a third person to Mark is my best friend. So we're going sort of into a first person voice. I would marry that into one concise tense because they're going to be reading this on the back cover. Even though it's the log line, even if you format it to be somewhat separate, these first two lines, the voice should stay consistent. The tense should stay consistent throughout. That way you're not confusing readers or like setting them off, sort of jarring them into a different tense. on the back cover copy. Because if you think about indie publishing, this is also going to be like your Amazon description. So they're not going to get the same sort of delineation as you would on a cover, but it needs to work for both platforms, basically. So sentence openers: Mark is my best friend and secret keeper since my divorce. When our text messages turn steamy, I can't resist. Like that. I've always been so conservative, but now I can barely keep my panties from igniting. So I can barely keep my panties from igniting. I mean, that's great. I'm not knocking romance. I read enough of them and I write enough of them. But I think that there's probably some more succinct like words you can use here to like get the word count like lower and still get that same like heat level. I can barely keep my panties from igniting. I've always been so conservative, but now. So it's kind of saying like, I'm a shy, good Christian girl, but Mark does this thing to me, you know, and it just, I've never felt this way before. It's kind of what you're wanting to get at. Then he suggests that we take our sexting to the real world. The risk of being caught by the church gossip, again, is the risk of being caught by the church gossips worth putting our friendship on the line? Question mark. I'm just not sure I can handle the friends with benefits rules. So what are these rules? This is the first time that we're hearing about the rules, and it's like at the end here. Does that mean I'm going to hell? Only heaven knows. Love that as an ending. This rules thing, if the rules play a big part in the narrative, I would almost venture to say that what you could do is say like rule number whatever, and then what the rule is as the log line at the top, right? And then I want, I want nothing more, or you could do third person throughout. Holly wants nothing more than to forget she was ever married, comma, that way the but isn't at the beginning of the sentence opener, but sleeping single in a double bed gets lonely. Mark is a best friend, sure, but best friend, what does that mean? Like, is he sort of a shy, dorky type who gets really hot, because he's texting dirty? Like what's going on there? So I would maybe start with like rule number 1 or something like that, because I'm not sure I can handle the rules. Like that sounds like something that's pretty hot right immediately. And then like that sort of structure might really go, oh, rules, rule number 1, like what's this hot rule or whatever. Rules are meant to be broken. That's a really kind of, good thing there. So that would be just an immediate assessment. Getting a little more concise wording throughout. Let's see. Ooh. You're making me want a teacup. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing real quick just so I can catch up on comments a little bit, because I know I've said a lot, but I haven't looked at a lot of these comments. So Dal says, I'm pretty sure about my book's themes, all the elements of my genre blend story, all that is done. I don't know how to people, so I don't know where they are. That's fair. Where do you go to buy books? Where do you go to find your genre blending books? That would be where you should start. If you normally do that online, search the categories that you think your book would be in on like Amazon, find out where those books are, how they're getting out there. That's a really good step. Researching that is the first step to like marketing, because then you'll say, okay, well, if I read these books and this is where I normally find them, then this is where I should probably be putting them so that other readers who enjoy these same books can find mine, right? So that's a really good one. Dal is good at introspection. Dal is not good at people skills. So who is your audience is a mystery. You will figure it out. I have faith in you. Yes, please read them. Thank you. Ooh, I like the steaminess in this. Yeah, I like the premise of your story a lot. Okay, so the first line was supposed to be a tagline. I think I already addressed that, tagline versus logline. Not sure which is which. So that is a logline, not the tagline. Yeah, the logline is kind of like the hook at the very beginning of your cover copy, which is on your back cover. The tagline is something, it's a call to action on the front cover that entices people to flip over to your back cover to read your description. Because the first thing that people see normally when they go in a bookstore, they pull off the book or whatever, it's your cover. So your cover gets them to the description. The description gets them to the cart. That is generally how it goes. The rules don't play a part. Okay, well, you know, I kind of got excited about that. She's trying to figure out how to have friends with benefits only. Okay, then I wouldn't mention like the rules thing because it does kind of seem in there like it would be more of a prevalent part of the story. She's not sure if she can handle the rules. Let's see here. And that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. Word choice is key. So word choice. Word choice is going to be super important for cover copies. That's something I sort of touched on when I was reading Connie's just a second ago. Really specific word choices can make or break a cover copy. So instead of saying like, I don't know, this book is about blank, right? That's not very interesting. It's not very dynamic. You want really specific word choices. So you could say like a searing narrative exploring blank, you know? So it's about the same amount of words, but those words have like buzzwords. They're a little more dynamic so that readers are like, oh, well, what's that about? Right? So word choice is really going to be key whenever it comes to your cover copies. I would have to get a little more information about your book so that I could do more in-depth analysis. I do like the end, the does that mean I'm going to hell? Only heaven knows. That's really good. Let me actually share this one more time because I want to kind of, I don't know if I can. I know nothing. Hang on one second. Not letting me do this. Yeah. I'm trying to technology. There it is. Okay. So let's zoom in because I'm an idiot. Better? Can people read that now? Okay. So with formatting, let's see here. Just a quick edit of a little bit of the things that I've mentioned, right? So since this one is in a different tense, we're going to put that up at the top because that would be the log line right there. Holly wants nothing more than to forget she was ever married, but sleeping single in a double bed gets lonely. That's the stakes. That's the point. Holly hated being married, but she wants love, romance, sex, whatever. And then it goes into Mark is my best friend and secret keeper since my divorce. This word right here, don't like as a sentence opener. But when our text messages turn steamy, I can't resist, right? Then we have another break here. I've always been so conservative, but now I can barely keep my panties from igniting. Then he suggests we take our sexting to the real world. The risk of being caught is so is the risk of being caught by the church gossips worth putting our friendship on the line? Right? That's the question. I'm not sure I can handle the friends with benefits rules. Does that mean I'm going to hell? Only heaven knows. So this would be a little bit of the way that I would break this up. And then if you center it, it looks a little bit better as far as like visuals are concerned, right? Because that would be a little bit more how it is on a back cover copy. A lot of long, loose sentence structures whenever you take out the buts as the beginning part. But there are a few things that I would probably exclude from this. I'm not sure I can handle the friends with benefits rules. I would probably say something closer to here, like instead of rules, because rules is a strong word implying like that there's like structure to this, that there's, you know, things that she can and can't do, right? Which I guess any friends with benefits relationship, sure. But the friends with benefit relationship is all about blurring the lines, right? It's all about blurring friends with more than friends. So it's not really about keeping strict rules unless that's like part of the structure in the story, which, you know, she said it wasn't. So I would definitely take out the word rules because it's a little bit it just leads a different impression than you probably want to lead with. I'm just not sure I can handle friends with benefits. What if it's like, I'm not sure I can like protect my heart, might be a thing. I'm not sure, casual sex, or something. Off the top of my head, I normally have to sort of mull things over to give really concise stuff, but more specific words here, like can I handle, that would probably be better. Can I handle? Make it another question because we're questioning things at the end here, right? Can I handle, being friends with benefits? Can I handle casual sex without getting my heart involved? Gotcha. Let's see here. I'm trying to catch up on comments. I'm getting so caught up in editing that I'm like forgetting that there's like comments happening. Sorry about that. They text for the first half of the book. She went to high school with him, so they knew each other before, and they reconnect at a church camp after a year of texting and sexting. Oh, I love that. Okay, yeah, that is, yep, love that. Okay, that's exciting. Let's see. Hello, everyone. Fantasy author here dropping by to say, hey, thank you so much for stopping in. If you have any questions about cover copies, please make sure that you just drop them in the chat and I'll get to them. Welcome, welcome. I will send you a search party. What? Oh, wait. When did Dal say she was lost? Oh, dang it. Sorry, Dal. I didn't see that one. Oh, wait. Own voices. Paranormal sci-fi author here. I'm lost. No, you're not lost. You're not lost. They're niche groups on Amazon for literally everything. Just start searching them. I promise you'll find some like-minded individuals. Maybe not exactly, but close enough as a comparison to your novel. I promise. I promise. Obviously, her marriage didn't go well. Maybe she's not sure that it won't come back to bite her in the butt. Yeah, also good observation there. Let's see here. Am I still sharing? Yeah, it has a black screen. Stop that. Stop doing that. Let's try this again. It's like, haha, there we go. Okay, so back to this. So the fact that they're sexting and then they meet up together at a church camp, I think that your log line needs to encompass that. Okay, because here near the end, and look, it's here near the end, it says, then he suggests we take our sexting to the real world. Okay, to the real world implies like, I'm going to come to the town you live in, not we meet up at church camp. You know what I mean? Like, that's a hook. That's exciting. That's entertaining. I would pick up that book in a heartbeat. So your log line probably shouldn't be about this marriage that is part of the backstory and stuff, right? We don't need to know her backstory in the log line. We don't need to know it at all until we buy the book, if we're being quite honest. We're going to mention her divorce here. So we already know she's a divorcee. But what I want to know immediately right off the bat, maybe is something like, I never thought, my innocent sexting would meet me at church camp or something like that. Like right in the very first log line. Like, of all the places the guy I was sexting could have turned up, church camp, ... Like that's, scandalous. That's something that you want to hook readers in with right away. So that would definitely be something that I would put right at the beginning. And then by the end, whenever you have like, does this mean I'm going to hell? Only heaven knows. So it comes full circle. And that's a really great ending for that. So I would definitely consider working on your log line and using that like hook right there that like we were sexting and then we met up at church camp as the premise, because they know what they're getting, right? They know that there's going to be a woman who is sexting a guy, which means that she knows him, and that at some point church camp comes into play, and that is salacious. Okay, so you definitely want to lead with that hook so that you can convert it into sales. But yeah, so those are going to be my immediate sort of just thoughts about that. Let's see here. I had a couple other things that I wanted to make sure that I went over. Mine's cold. Don't hold back the catalyst moment or the inciting incident. The catalyst moment for this probably happens a little bit later in yours. But that's fine. The thing that propels her forward is going to be like the fact that she's sexting a guy. And then like the hook there is that they meet up in a place where it's like pretty salacious, right? That's a great point, Lauren, the way it comes full circle. Yep, that's definitely it. It's like by the end of your cover copy, you either want like a call to action, or like a rhetorical question at the end is really, really great. Or you want something that ties it back into that hook so that readers can remember by the time that they've finished reading the cover copy why they were interested in, purchasing it in the first place. So that would be really great, would be like start it with a really snappy, hooky log line, about sexting in church camp. And then like right at the end, like, am I going to hell? Only heaven knows. Like, love that. And then breaking it up to where you have headings and subheadings, again, for aesthetics, for like the backs of books, the way I did mine, I don't know if you can see. So there's like the log line up here. We have like a punchy line. Then we have a little bit of like context and stuff, another subheading, and then we go into that. So what this does is that readers look at it and they're like, oh, that's not so much to read. So they will actually get through the entire thing. And then by the end, hopefully they're like so invested that they're like, add to cart, right? Let's see here. Don't hold back your inciting incident, for sure. Don't do that. Don't hold back your inciting incident. It's not going to ruin it for readers. They're just going to really know what they're getting. Less is more. Let's talk about what to exclude from your cover copy, because we had somebody in the chat who said he was a fantasy writer, and I see this a lot with fantasy writers in particular. And like I said, different genres have like different sort of requirements for cover copies because marketing is very specific. So it's going to be sort of specific to what genre you're writing in. When I talked earlier about formatting and length, no more than 250 words maximum, right? So that it can fit aesthetically on your cover. But also because there's a lot of things that you're going to want to trim from your cover copy. Mainly if you're a fantasy writer and you have written this wonderful, beautiful world that is like 200,000 words, right? With histories and mythologies and backstories and religions and politics and all of these things that like fantasy writers in particular, but other genres as well, have to like consider whenever they're creating worlds from scratch, which is like insanely cool. They don't know how to trim that stuff out of their cover copy. They don't know how to get to the point. They think that they have to give a lot of context before they get to the stakes of the story that they're telling. And a lot of times, a good way to distill a world that big with lots of characters and rich cultures and things like that is to focus on your theme. So if your theme, for example, I'm just going to use my book as an example here because I haven't read Aragon in about a million years, and that's the one I pulled off my shelf. So for mine, for example, one of the main themes is tragedy and rebirth, right? So my main character has known her entire life the exact day she was going to die. And the inciting incident is that she like runs away. So that's explained in the cover copy. I'm not spoiling anything. So my tagline up here is, what if your entire life you knew the exact day you were going to die? That immediately makes you care about the main character and what she's going through, right? I mean, like, right? I didn't have to give a history of the gods and the prophecy and the whatever. I didn't have to give all that context to distill one of the main themes and set stakes for the main character for the plot of the novel. So that's going to be a really big thing. You don't want to give too many like names of places. You don't want to give too many names of secret societies and, you know, different political groups and things like that. You don't want to give a lot of that. Those are things that you're going to want to like just take away. Whenever they buy the book, they're going to get the whole backstory that you've written. They're going to get to read the mythologies that you've carefully cultivated. They're going to get to immerse themselves in the cultures and all of the things, the wonderful things that you have put in your book. So think about it from the perspective of like, if you have multiple characters, like, well, what's the main conflict? Try and distill the main conflict into the tagline. Then in the body, you go into just give enough context, you know, so that they understand the plot. And then when they buy the book, they get the explanations, they get everything, they get all the backstories, all the like layers of wonderful, complex things that you've developed. So that's something you're going to want to exclude, is a lot of like different names of places and characters that aren't main characters and things like that. Speaking of, I think we have another live edit that I want to do. And this is actually my co-author, Abby Smith, who is in the chat helping moderate for me. She sent me hers in advance. So I am going to share the screen. And hers is a fantasy novel. So that's kind of why, I don't know, I segued there. I segued. So let me see here if I can make this bigger. Where can I make you bigger? So that y'all can read it. Her book is called A Shield of Stars. I'm not seeing the zoom option. Ah, there it is. Okay. Let's see. Let's do 150. There we go. So Shield of Stars. This is her cover copy. Let's read through it first, and then I'll kind of tell y'all a little bit about what I'm talking about, like what you want to exclude from your cover copy. So 20-year-old Liana doesn't remember much about her life before she came to Linksara, an island situated in the center of a large lake in the heart of the continent. That whole thing is the first that whole thing. So in the first sentence, we get the age, the name of the main character, the name of the place where she's at, what the place she's at is, where it's located in the context of like geographically and in the context of like within the continent, which is, I guess, the world. We don't need like any of that right there. we don't need that. So for 12 years, she has trained to one day take over the Order of the Lynx. We don't need to know that either. we don't need to know the name of the order. We don't need that. On the day of her induction as the next high priestess, Liana prepares to see her mother again. Instead, a letter arrives from her uncle in the north of somewhere, telling her that her mother has died and begging her to return to Galotia. So we have a second place name. The news shatters the relative peace Liana found as a priestess and forces the young woman to decide if being high priestess is what she truly wants. Then on impulse, Liana escapes the island moments before the ceremony and sets out for a phoenix spire So we have another name and then another geographical location, the capital of Galotia. It's really hard not to laugh. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at the cover copy because Abby's in the room with me and she's laughing, and it's hard not to do the same. The capital of Galotia and her mother's home. Okay, so we now know Phoenix Fire is the name, where it is, and its sentimental connection. Stop laughing. And her mother's home in the years since they last spoke. So that's more backstory there. On her journey north, Liana meets a pair of young men. Ha! Now we're getting somewhere. Men are here. Penn, a charming man who isn't who he says he is, offers to travel with her to ensure her safe journey to the capital. Together, they defy the dangers of the northern country and find themselves in the process. So, there's a lot good here, but there's a lot that can be trimmed. First thing is that the first line does not tell us anything about the stakes. In fact, I don't think we understand the inciting incident or the stakes until we go to, where's this line? A letter arrives from her uncle in the north telling her that her mother has died. Do we need to know who sent the letter at this point? No. Her mother has died. That is what changes. That's what changes in her circumstances that propels her into the action of the next scene. So that is going to be, kind of her stakes are like, she's supposed to be this high priestess, but her mom died and she wants to find out who did it, right? So I would start with a log line here, indicating that, right? Like, Liana has always known that one day she would be high priestess, ... until her mother is murdered. Right? Then you go into some context here. A lot of these names, like place names and stuff, like we don't need to know how old Liana is here. We don't need to. We're going to find that out in the book. We know now Liana is the main character from the log line. Then, she doesn't remember much about her life before she came to Linksara. Then we don't need to know that. She doesn't remember it. We don't need to know. An island situated this. We're going to find that out. For 12 years, she's trained. So she's known her whole life, or she's known for most of her life, or she's known for 12 years, if that's an important number in the context of the book, right? That she was going to take over as high priestess, ... Then her mother is murdered, right? Because that's what changes. That's what propels her into the action. That's what's going to hook readers. On the day of her induction, as the next high priestess, she prepares to see her mother again. That's sad. Sad. Don't need to note the uncle sent her the letter. We're going to read about that in the book. Begging her to return to Galotia. Okay, don't need to know that either. The news shatters the relative peace Liana found as a priestess and forces the young woman to decide if being high priestess is what she truly wants. It's not forcing her to do anything except for make a decision, right? Like you have a decision. You can figure out what happened to your mother. You can live this life that you want. Like, there's not really a force there, so I wouldn't use the word forces. I think that's a little bit misleading because it's indicating that there is some sort of external outside force, like making her go in a different direction, but she's really making a decision. And that's powerful. That's agency for a character. So you want to make sure that that's known. Like, she makes the decision, like, I want to find out what happened to my mother, on impulse. So this also sort of robs her of her agency because it means that she didn't make a decision. It was an impulse. And here she was being forced. So like those words sort of rob Liana of the agency in her own story right off the bat. So I would take away things like that. I would take out on impulse. Liana escapes the island moments before the ceremony and sets out for the capital of Galotia because we don't need to know the name, period. And her mother's home in the years since they last spoke. I'm assuming that this is included because she's going to try to find out what happens to her, but that's not expressly stated in the text. So if you want to like make sure that you're grounding potential readers in what the stakes are, now we need to ground them in what the motivations are. So she escapes the island moments before the ceremony and sets out for the capital of Galotia, right? Why? because she's going to find her mother's murderer. She's going to find out what happened to them. I'm assuming is the motivation here. Yes. She's doing this. On her journey, we don't need to know it's north. On her journey, because we know she's going somewhere different now, Liana meets a pair of young men. That's good. Okay, so now we have a hook, you know, and then we have a little bit of context for like, okay, she escaped and she's going to find out what happened to mom or something or other. That's, you know, like the motivation or whatever, right? And she's going to this other place. And so now on her journey, she meets a pair of young men. Okay, so now we have a little bit of dynamic going on here. Hen, a charming man who isn't who he says he is. Period. Because that leads us into a little bit of mystery. So that's good. Then I would make this whole last part here like a different sentence. Offers to travel with her to ensure her safety to the capital, right? He offers to travel with her to ensure her safety to the capital. Together, they defy the dangers of the northern country and find themselves in the process. Now, I know Abby, and I have not read this book, but she has told me that this is a romance, the adult fantasy romance. There is no indication of the romance in this so far. So I would make sure that that is something that is also included, because you want to set the stage for readers so that like when they're coming back, you know, and they're reading the back of this book, they're like, oh, he isn't who he says he is. But like, something's going to happen with them. Is this enemies to lovers? What is happening? You know, because that is very intriguing for readers. You want to make sure you're marketing towards your intended audience, especially if your intended audience like has different like themes and tropes and stuff. So that's just my quick assessment of that. But there's a lot of this that, you know, isn't needed. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about with the like less is more and the things to exclude. You know, we don't necessarily need to know who writes a letter. We don't need to necessarily know like where a city is located. We don't necessarily need to know like what the name of the priestesses are, stuff like that, right? Because we're going to get all of that in the context of the book. What we need to know is, why do we care? Why do we want to buy it? You know, and so a lot of those like outside elements we should just exclude so that we can make the most use out of the 200, 250 words that, you know, we have for the cover copy. So that's my second live edit in a different genre entirely. Excuse me. I'm going to take a sip. I've been talking like 90 to nothing for a minute, so I'm going to drink some coffee. Does anyone have any questions or any cover copies that they wanted me to just kind of like a rough edit? Since that's kind of what I was doing. Sako! Hi, Sako. Thank you for coming. Abby's over here like, she was sitting here laughing the whole time. I could barely get the words out because she was like giggling. This reads more like a book summary. Yeah, it reads more like a summary than like a cover copy. And it's not that it's bad. Like, here's the thing about this is that none of this is bad. It's just that you want to structure it in such a way that you're selling books. And creative writers, you know, creative types, artists, like, I mean, especially if like your art is the written word, like you tend to use a lot of them, you know, and so just finding the right way to do that, the structure in which to do that, to sort of finagle it to where, you know, your books get out to as many readers as possible. Oh, yay! I used your suggestions and updated my blurb. Yes, I love it. I love it. So excited. I'm telling you, I'm a sucker for this. I don't know what it is. I'm a glutton for punishment or something. I just really like it. And everybody thinks I'm weird. But if anyone else has any questions or anyone else wants to send me a cover copy. I'm more than happy to do that. Or if you want to send me your updated one, I'd like to read it. I'm going to have to watch this one on replay. I feel like this wasn't as structured as I wanted it to be. I just started talking. But whatever. I mean, we can do what we want to do here. But yeah, so another thing is genre specific. Making sure that you're reading cover copies in your genre is going to be really important because different genres have different requirements. Oh, great question, Stephanie. Thank you. Any advice for dual protagonists? Absolutely. Dual protagonists. There are several ways you can handle these in a cover copy. So one way that I like, but it doesn't work for every book, is because again, you know your book better than me. But one way that I really, really enjoy dual protagonists, especially if they're like dueling perspectives, so they both have their own perspective in the books, is by starting with a log line that explains either the stakes or the main conflict of the book, right? Because that's going to be the thing that both protagonists care about, and it's going to be what propels both of them into their action, right? So it's going to relate to both of them. Then from there, you can use a different sort of structure where you do the stakes for your main protagonist or your first protagonist, depending on the way that it's structured. Like some people have like multiple protagonists or multiple points of view, but there's really one main character. Then you would want to center your cover copy on that, but then give context for the other one throughout. But if yours are both pretty equal, then what you should probably do is do like a little short paragraph giving context for the stakes and motivations for protagonist one. And I would go by whoever has the first perspective in your book if they're both equal, and then do a second sort of paragraph or summarization of the stakes and motivations for your second protagonist, which should be like the second point of view. Then what you do is once you say this person this person this, then you kind of tie it together in the third section, and then you should end with a really good sort of punchy line that either relates to your log line at the top or kind of like we did with Connie's earlier if you weren't here for that, where it kind of brings full circle like what the main conflict is, or something like a call to action right at the end. I actually have probably a really good example of this. I'm working on a co-authored project. It's an adult dystopian Western novel. It's coming out next July, and I have a proposed cover copy, if I can find it, that I did. And it's, look, this is like my first draft, so, you know, don't judge me too harshly. I have not edited it. I hate that word, edited. It's so hard to say, edited. Anyway, that was obnoxious. Let's see, Smoke, where are you at? Where are you at? Just scrolling through. So I have a pretty good example of this though, because I feel like when I explain stuff, it's harder than like when you see it, you know? Those cover copy, Guns and Smoke. Let me just make it a little bit bigger and then I'm going to share it real quick. Okay, so here's like, this is the first of lots of, this is the first draft. Don't judge me too harshly, okay? So this is an adult dystopian Western romance that I co-authored. So this is sort of an example of the way to handle two evenly matched protagonists in a cover copy. So this first one in italics, this first line is the log line. In a world where safety is a luxury and honor is found only among outlaws, Two people attempt to outrun dangers lurking around each corner and the tragedies that define them, right? So that's sort of a summary of like the conflict, right? Then we go into Bonnie. So here's protagonist number one. She has the first perspective that we see whenever reading the book. First chapter is hers. It's from her perspective. Bonnie is an outlaw on the run, beautiful but dangerous. Her dark past stalks her like the crater beasts that roam the desert in her nightmares. As the notorious and cruel outlaw Jones sends his henchmen to track her down and retrieve the treasure she stole from him, Bonnie hopes she can stay one step ahead, because if he catches her, a fate worse than death awaits. So these are like the motivations and the stakes and what is happening with her, right? Then we go to Jesse. Jesse always dreamed of leaving the farm to explore the ruins of the big cities he heard about his whole life. He just never imagined he'd be forced to flee after strange men burned down his rural mountain town and murdered everyone he loved. Responsible for his kid brother and searching for an uncle he's never met before, he isn't sure he can navigate the perils of life among con artists and thieves long enough to find him. So here's the stakes and the motivations for Jesse. So here we have Bonnie, Jesse. We know immediately what they want, what they need. Then we go into their two paths collide as they find themselves thrown together on the adventure of a lifetime. Okay, together. So here's the sort of summarization statement, which can be a little bit longer. I just didn't think it was necessary, I guess, when I was writing this. And then we have what's like going to bring it sort of full circle, right? So together, they may just discover that life is about more than just surviving. So, you know, so that's kind of a good way, a good structure to deal with dual protagonists whenever you're talking about cover copy. You know, a log line that's really punchy and hooky. This needs a lot of editing. And then what's going on with Bonnie? What's going on with Jesse? What brings them together, or how do they come together? Why do we care about these two people? What journey do they go on together, type thing? And then something at the end to tie it all together, like a call to action, something that's really going to hit readers right at the end and say, I really want to read this, right? So that's usually a pretty good outline for that. But I have two protagonists in my young adult fantasy novel, but my main protagonist is Liz, even though they share like point of view and like, I guess what you would call like screen time or whatever, spotlight. Definitely it's more Liz's story, so I focus more on her. So that's going to definitely be something that you have to figure out as far as like your narrative goes. Like, is it their story? Is it their story, like their arcs to individually as well as together? Like, are they pretty equal on that? Or is there one who's, you know, a little bit more important than the other that you want to focus on more? You know, who, you know, you kind of got to play with it. Every book is different. That's another thing. I think I saw a question. So I'm going to go up here. Is there a standard structure system to use? This is a great question. You will find a million articles, a million videos, a million things telling you this is the formula. This is what you should do. Don't listen to any of them. I'm so serious. Don't listen to any of them. Like, the stuff that I'm talking about, it's the basics of story structure, but it's just distilled with some marketing principles, you know, filtered through. But every book is different. And so every book needs to be marketed differently. It depends on who your audience is. It depends on what genre you're in. It depends on your plot. You know, is the point of your book a romance? Is the point of it the mystery? Like, is the point of it the fantastical elements? Like, those things are going to be outside of the realm of a formula. Now, there's some basics, you know, that you can use. Like, again, the log line structure is really successful. Use a log line, fill in with some context, really punchy line at the end. Like, those things are pretty general, but everything else is going to be really unique because your book is unique. Like, nobody's ever written the same book twice, right? So a lot of this is going to be very personal, and you know your story better than anybody else does. You can always hire an editor. to help you edit your cover copy and help you with like things like structure, things like I've been talking about for an hour and a half. Sorry. You know, especially if marketing is not something that you're really, you know, very well researched in. Like, you can always do that. But definitely, like, everyone is different. Every book is different. I don't like the formulas because I feel like people really stick to those very stringently because they think it's a recipe for success. And what happens is they lose a lot of their unique voice. And that's part of what makes each book really great. You know, like all the cover copies that we've seen so far today, they have very different structures. They have very different things that are important to them, but that's because nobody's written the same book, you know, and their voices are very different. And that's what makes them beautiful, you know. Any good editor worth their salt is not going to tell you to follow some formula, because what ends up happening is you get a cover copy that doesn't sound anything like the amazing book you wrote. Dual POV, now that's my thing. Yeah, me too. I challenged myself for Nano this year to do a single POV. It was so strange for me. The second blurb I sent you has 2 to 3 POVs. Oh, I haven't even looked at that one yet. I write dark romance. How do I send you a blurb? Let me pull that up. I love it. Oh, I'm so like, I love it. I love torturing myself. All right, so I'm definitely not going to be able to enlarge this one is the only thing because it's in my email. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Hang on. Let me just copy and paste this into a Word document so I can like get this a little bit larger so everybody can read it. We're going to do file, new, and paste. I exit out of that one. Sorry, technology and me. I feel like y'all been doing nothing but listening to me babble and watching me fight with technology. All right, Tara. So thank you for sending in your cover copy, first of all. And let me see if I can share this thing so I can read it. Oh, no. There you go. There we go. Whoop. It's like right in the middle. All right. So here's our next cover copy. I'm going to drink a little bit of coffee and answer a couple of comments before I get into this one, just because I need it. I've been talking for so long. Oh, thank you, Heather. You're so sweet. I love Heather. Let's see here. Oh my God, I wonder if my cover copy is too short. Absolutely not. I went over this a little earlier, but you weren't here, Sako. We went over length and formatting. Any cover artist worth their salt is going to tell you that a cover copy maximum amount of words needs to be 250 words. Less is better. That's literally the maximum that it should be. Using, as far as formatting, using smartly the use of like headings and subheadings, it's actually really great. So visually speaking, a cover copy to fit aesthetically on a back cover of a book shouldn't be more than 250 words length, but being able to add spaces using headings and subheadings, it actually visually tricks the reader into thinking that it's a short, quick read. So they end up actually reading the entire thing as opposed to big blocks of text. So using headings and subheadings as far as formatting to have more like space in between the words is actually really good from a marketing standpoint. And then to be able to fit on a cover maximum 250 words. If it's shorter than that, that's great. But if it's longer than that, then you need to do some trimming, because literally any cover artist will tell you if it's over that, then it's really hard to fit it on the back of a book in a way that's aesthetically pleasing, where the font isn't like really tiny and to where it's not big chunks of text, which makes it really kind of look a little bit slower as far as pacing and like a lot more work for readers or potential readers. So that's good. If it does my story any justice. Isn't that just like, you know, the whole thing, huh? That's the hard part, is the second guessing yourself part. I do that all the time. Let me get into Tara's cover copy now that I have it up. I just want to read it a little bit. Okay. Logan Hudson was a whole lot of sin wrapped up in heartache. Like that. Hey, Logan. I was the son of the devil, the spawn of the boogeyman. Darkness was my domain. I didn't just thrive on the pain and misery of others. I craved it, fed on their screams and tears, and I wanted hers the most. Shelby Grace, my walking, talking wet dream. So sweet that she made my teeth hurt. But I'm cursed. Everything I touch rots at the core. I should stay away from her, leave her alone to live her innocent existence. Except I can't, because there's one thing darkness is meant to do: corrupt the light. I know I shouldn't go down this road. Logan Hudson was a bad idea with worse consequences. The pretty boy with a charming smile and a list of conquests a mile long. But how do I resist the devil when he's always there, tempting me with sparkling green eyes and with a wicked, is that supposed to be a wicked smirk? It was impossible to hate him, and trust me, I was trying. Because it wasn't the monster I was afraid of. It was the broken boy underneath. So this is actually pretty solid. Not gonna lie, pretty solid. The one thing I will say is that while I love this as a first line, Logan Hudson was a whole lot of sin wrapped up in heartache, I think it's very jarring to go to this from this and then go into his perspective immediately afterwards here. Also, while I think the use of spacing here is, I think it's a little overboard. So from a formatting perspective, you also don't want to make this to where it's so long that it won't fit well on like a back cover copy. And you want to try and make sure that different things are highlighted. If you use spaces too often, then like when you separate one line out, it doesn't have as much impact. You're going to want to use that sort of strategically. So for example, you know, and another thing is, I don't think that you need this line at all, the spawn of the boogeyman, because you already say son of the devil. That sort of gets your point across, right? And boogeyman kind of makes the devil sound like something that kids are like scared of, but he's not really that scary, right? Like it doesn't have sort of the same really deep, dark connotation that you want, right? So first of all, I think this is a little bit of a jarring transition here. I would definitely love to see you keep this, but then I would probably, yeah, I would change to where it's that Logan Hudson and the sin, and then do this here, like right immediately afterwards. So I would like invert that because you have really strong lines at the end of each of these like separate descriptions, right? You have really strong lines for both. So, you know, I would start it with Logan Hudson, go into Shelby's stuff, right? And then let's see. And then from there, so it's kind of like they're talking about each other, which is actually I really like that. And then I would do maybe this line at the beginning. So we would do this here, right? Because you kind of want to orient people with who they're talking about, right? And then let's just move this real quick so that I can show you what I mean instead of telling you. Come on, move. Me fighting against technology. Come on. Okay, come here. I swear, y'all are just watching me like fight with technology all day. It's being so glitchy. Probably because I'm on StreamYard too. Come on. There we go. So then we want to put this here, right? Logan Hudson was a whole lot of sin wrapped up in heartache. I know I shouldn't go down this road. She knows. He, so we're going to change this to he since we have his name right here in the title. He was a bad idea with worse consequences. The pretty boy with a charming smile and a list of conquests a mile long. And then I actually don't mind the but here because it's not repeated. Normally I don't like buts as sentence openers, but this one's actually pretty good. But how do I resist the devil when he's always there, tempting me with sparkling green eyes? And we're going to put a wicked smirk. And then this, I don't like the and at the beginning of this. Not for your cover copy. It was impossible to hate him, and trust me, I was trying, because it wasn't the monster I was afraid of. So this would actually, I think, benefit from, again, we're going to take out some of these spacing issues here, because it wasn't the monster I was afraid of. And let's use an ellipses to help build tension. It was the broken boy underneath, period, right? So this is Shelby, but it's talking about how hung up she is on Logan and how she knows that he's like not good for her at all. So this is a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Then we go into Shelby from Logan's perspective, right? We're getting it sort of backwards because they're talking about each other. Shelby Grace, my walking, talking wet dream. So sweet, she made my teeth hurt. I was the son of the devil. Darkness was my domain, or is? Well, was works. Is might be a little more dynamic. Let's see. I was, no, if you're going to use was here. I am the son of the devil. Darkness is my domain. I think actually would be better because it's a little more active here. So I am the son of the devil. Darkness is my domain. I don't just thrive. Well, it's all in past tense, and that would be more present. I don't know. This is how I kind of play with stuff, okay? I was the son of the devil. Darkness was my domain. I didn't just thrive on the pain and misery of others. I craved it. Fed on their screams and tears. Use of ellipses, since we did that for Shelby, right? And then let's do, and I wanted hers the most. But I'm cursed. Everything I touch rots at the core. I should stay away from her. Leave her alone to live her innocent existence. Except I can't, because there's one thing darkness is meant to do. Another ellipses. Because so here's the thing, and I wanted hers the most. But here's the problem right at the end. So that's actually a pretty good summarization. And whenever you end with corrupt the light, you immediately see that these two perspectives are on a collision course for one another, and it leaves tension right at the end, which is really good. So, and I wanted hers the most, but I'm cursed. Everything I touch rots at the core. I should stay away from her, leave her alone to live her innocent existence. Except I can't, because there's one thing darkness is meant to do. ... Corrupt the light. So that's really good. I think that you have a lot of really strong word choices here. You make it clear that it's going to be a romance. I would definitely use formatting to help, because I think that you use a lot of spacing, but I don't know. You use it pretty well. There were a couple of places where I adjusted it, but you use it pretty well. So definitely I would use like formatting. So I would put everything, and again, a cover artist will help you more with like formatting a little bit with this, but then like headings and subheadings, you're going to want to make some stuff like a little bit bigger, a little bit. So let's like do 14-point font here. We'll italicize it, because we're talking about Logan, right? Then we're talking about Shelby. So we'll make this bigger and italicized. Like, so these are just some ways that your cover copy can be a little bit more dynamic. And then here, since corrupt the light is like a big deal, we'll make it bigger, right? And we'll italicize it and we'll bold it. I mean, that's just, you know, a rough whatever. Logan Hudson was a whole lot of sin wrapped up in heartache. Shelby Grace, my walking, talking, wet dream. So sweet that she made my teeth hurt. Corrupt the light. Like, you know, those are some points that you'll want to hit as far as formatting to make it a little more dynamic for readers. Because there is a lot of spacing, but you do a really, really good job of like having these like short, witty, you know, things that are really just, they're very punchy, really good word choices. So really actually very solid choice that you made as far as your cover copy goes. Yeah, from a designer perspective, it seems long. Yeah, and you may have to cut out a few more of those spaces and stuff like that. I just don't know where I would do it. I would have to play with it more. That's another thing. These are really, really quick edits. But, you know, generally, whenever I'm actually doing edits for like clients for their cover copies and stuff, I'm really like much more meticulous. I get to play with things. I get to kind of change tenses and see what would work a little bit better because you kind of got to play with it. You know, it's not something that you can just say immediately, like, you know, oh, well, maybe this, maybe that. You know, you kind of got to work on it a little bit. It's not something that you're going to do in one draft. So, you know, I would play with maybe trying to just change the structure of it. But a lot of that was very, very good, actually, Tara. And it sounds really good. Again, kind of want to read your book. Actually kind of really want to read everybody's book that I've edited. There were edited that they've had their cover copies, like the Sexting Church Camp one. Sounds so good. Which Connie's like messaging me on Facebook, and I haven't had a chance to see her new one. Because she said she actually oh, yeah. I'll reply to you real quick. I'm just going to copy and paste it. So, you know, the formatting, just play with that. Let's see here. I'm just going to paste it into an email and send it right back to you, which is, there you go. And anyone who wants like a more in-depth thing, I do offer editing services now. That's something I recently decided to do after I published my debut novel. I had been privately sort of editing, doing developmental edits of manuscripts, ghostwriting, review services, stuff like that. But I do offer editing services now through my website. So if that's something that you're interested in, it's under the ghostwriting like section on my website. Just because everybody, as far as cover copies, have like different needs. Some people want me to like write it from scratch, and then some people just want me to kind of do a quick, you know, edit or an in-depth one, sort of the way that I have for Tara and Constance. Constance? Did I say that right? Connie. Oh, Constance. Yeah, it is. I'm crazy. I was like, I'm bad with names. I'm real bad with names. I forget some of my family members' names sometimes. Not immediate family, but you know. But yeah, so that's another thing is that if we don't have enough time on this stream for me to kind of help everybody, I can always give advice, you know, but if you want something really in depth, I can always do that for you. I don't charge an arm and a leg because cover copies are pretty quick for me to edit. But yeah, so that is always something that we can do. And does anyone have questions? I know we've covered a lot in the almost 2-hour stream. Let me get this banner off because I haven't been talking about that for a hot second. But does anyone have any more like specific questions about their cover copies or want me to take a look at their cover copy or about some of the marketing principles? I'll have a lot of questions later, LOL. That's funny. Let's see here. I kind of want to see Connie's updated version here. So I actually gave her a rough edit, and she used some of my suggestions and then redid her cover copy, which I think is so awesome. And I kind of want to read it real quick to see from the first one that we saw. Let's see. Like how much it has changed, kind of thing. She changed the first line, so I'm just changing that in the document before I share it real quick. I love helping people. It makes me happy. And I'm a glutton for punishment. I love doing cover copies. Weirdo. Don't judge me too harshly. I drink coffee out of grandma glasses. Okay, let's see. All right, so here's the new one. After a year of sexting slash texting slash, I would just say sexting maybe. I would take this out. Sexting, that's the, after a year of sexting, Holly never thought they would meet at church camp. That is a great first line. Yes. Look, log line. Separate that out. Dot, dot, dot. Like that is really good. So that's a really great hook. After a year of sexting, Holly never thought they would meet at church camp. Neither did we. Like, yes, great hook. Mark is my best friend and secret keeper since my divorce. Secret keeper, is that important? That's one thing. Just you know, the big things we've done, but like if when we're getting into the little minutia of like word choices and stuff, I would ask, how important is that to know in the cover copy? Mark has been my best friend since my divorce. Might be a little more dynamic. But let's comma here. We're going to make it the sentence opener. When our text messages turn steamy, I can't resist, right? I've always been so conservative that now I can barely keep my panties from igniting. Can I handle friends with benefits without involving my heart? Oh, so much better. That's so good. Yes. Is the risk of being caught by the church gossips worth putting our friendship on the line? Does this mean I'm going to hell? Great. This is great. Okay. So this is what we're going to do, because these are all rhetorical questions, right? That's a warning. We're going to put that down there with Surgeon General. And then this one, that's going to be on its own. So after a year of sexting, Holly never thought they would meet at church camp. Mark was my best friend since my divorce. But when our text messages turn steamy, I can't resist. I've always been so conservative, but now I can barely keep my panties from igniting. Can I handle friends with benefits without involving my heart? Is the risk of being caught by the church gossips worth putting our friendship on the line? Does this mean, not that, she's involved in it. Does this mean I'm going to hell? Only heaven knows. Bam. Really good. So much better. So much better. So much better. I would read the hell out of this book, by the way. All right. Let me stop that one now. So yeah, really, really good work. A lot of stuff that's been happening here. Any more comments or questions from the peanut gallery? Can any Sako, if you're still there, message me on Facebook. Is the chat still working? Because Abby says that hers is frozen. So yeah, I think that StreamYard is glitching a little bit. Let us know. Let us know. We might have to call it soon. You can, let me do this. I think I have a banner set up, or I'll put one real quick. If you're having, like, if you have a specific question or something, you can Facebook message me. My socials are down below. Or you can, let me see if I can put this banner up. You can email me your cover copy or question to my email, which is right here for you guys. Because I don't know if the chat's working very well. StreamYard's being a little glitchy today. Aha! Back. Oh, Connie says she has a friend's blurb, and that she's watching too. Okay. Send it to me. Send to me. I'll help. She sent it to me Facebook Messenger. It's the Facebook. It's the Facebook, you guys. Yeah, if your friend wants me to take a look at it, I'm more than happy to do that. Just send it on over, either through Facebook or to my email, whichever you prefer, and I will do that. We've been on here almost 2 hours, and I feel like I've helped so many people. I love it. Huh. All right, here we go. So this is going to be a cover copy from an author named Ivy Penn, and I am just going to plop it into Word document real quick before we share. And I'm being told to shamelessly plug myself while I'm doing that. So here's the advertising part of this stream. My name is Lauren Sevier. I'm a young adult author, YouTuber, and mom from Louisiana. I offer editing services through my website, anything from developmental edits to cover copy edits, ghostwriting, and review services. My young adult novel came out at the end of November. It's called Songs of Autumn, and it explores themes of climate change, tragedy, rebirth, and women's empowerment. Also, be super great if you liked the stream, shared it with friends, and subscribe to my channel and rang the bell to get notified if I ever decide to start making more consistent YouTube stuff, because I also work full-time in cardiology during a national pandemic, or international pandemic. National, it's just us. God. Okay, that's it. I'm done with the self-promotion. Let me share the screen. All right. Here we go. Okay, so let's read it first. I'm getting married, so why don't I feel happy? Ooh. Solid. Every time my fiance tells me he's disappointed, I think about Cooper Parks, the man who left. He just thinks of me as a friend. At least that's how it seemed the last time I saw him at my sister's wedding. I moved on, and the proof is waiting for me at the end of the aisle. I think that probably just got lost in translation. Olivia Swanson was my dream girl. So here we have a separation. Right? Olivia Swanson was my dream girl. Every beautiful curve of hers belonged to me. Love that. That's a good word choice. Every beautiful curve of hers belonged to me. Now that I'm home and done working for Uncle Sam, time to stake the claim I should have staked a long time ago. I know she's getting married. That asshole doesn't deserve her. I got to stop this wedding or we'll both regret it for the rest of our lives. That's the call to action at the end, right? And this is the log line. So this would be more of a little bit of the structure here. So the very first line, I'm getting married, so why don't I feel happy, right? Great to start with this type of a question. You know, it immediately gets you emotionally invested in what's happening, right? Because like she's getting married, but she's like, but I ain't happy though. So that's really good. That's a really good log line for the front or for the top of the cover copy. And then we go into what's happening with Olivia. And this is another one. It happens a lot more, I think, in the romance genre where they're talking about each other. Because in romance, the point is the relationship. And so they're obviously thinking about the other person. So the only thing that I would say here is every time my fiance tells me he's disappointed, I think about Cooper Parks, the man who left, right? Disappointed in what? Disappointed in her? Why is he disappointed in her? Is he making her feel less than? How? This is something that I would really delve into here. How is her fiance lacking? How is he not the right person? Because that's immediately what we're invested in from this first line. I'm getting married, so why don't I feel happy? Why don't you? You know, what is it that's telling her, you know, that's making her think about Cooper Parks? He's just saying he's disappointed. Disappointed in what? Disappointed in the weather? Disappointed in, you know, the wedding plans? Like, we need to know that. Is he demonizing her character? Is he not supportive of her? Is that why, like, in times of weakness or whatever, whenever they're having like these little spats or whatever, she's thinking about the person who's never treated her that way? Like, that's a stake that we need a little bit more clearly defined right here at the very beginning, right? Every time he tells me he's disappointed, I'm thinking it's in her, but also that sort of implies some sort of like insecurity that she has about herself, you know, to where she's thinking about this person who never made her insecure. So I would lean into that a little bit more. And then maybe even like a line or two here, because you can afford it. You can afford it. This is a pretty short cover copy. You know, you can afford to expand a little bit on this point, and then like maybe with an ellipses, ... I think about Cooper Parks, the man who left, right? Because you want to highlight that part. He's the love interest. He's why she, you know, she would feel more satisfied with him than with her fiance. He just thinks of me as a friend. At least that's how it seemed the last time I saw him at my sister's wedding. You don't need to know I saw him at my sister's wedding. Take that out. That's not information that's like the last time I saw him, period. Last time I saw him, he acted like I was just his friend. But I can't get him out of my brain and I'm marrying somebody else. That's a problem I'm invested in as a reader, right? We don't need to know where she last saw him. We're going to read about that in the book. I moved on, and the proof is waiting for me at the end of the aisle. Bam. Really good. That's a really good summarization. So lean into the relationship dynamics here, right at the beginning. You know, trim out a little bit here, like at my sister's wedding. We don't need to know that. And then I moved on, and the proof is waiting for me at the end of the aisle. Really strong log line, really strong ending for Olivia's like part of the summary of this. And then we go into Olivia Swanson. Really good that you started with her name here because it's a perspective shift to Cooper's perspective. So that's really good because we don't want, as a reader, to assume that we're still reading from Olivia's perspective, and starting with her name makes it very clear right away that we're not. So that's a really good choice. Olivia Swanson was my dream girl. So I would say is. She is my dream girl. Olivia Swanson is my dream girl. My soulmate, the one that I have always known that I want to be with. I'm going to break up this damn wedding to get her back. Not was, not past tense, is. She is my dream girl. Every beautiful curve of hers. I can't talk. And my coffee is cold again. Because I keep talking and not drinking it. Okay, so she is my dream girl. Every beautiful curve of hers belonged to me. So, but here's the thing. Belonged is a really great word. Okay, this is really good word choices. You're doing really good with that. But this is a different perspective. This is a different character that we're hearing from. And he clearly is going to take action. So we don't want as much of a past tense in his, right? She is my dream girl. Her curves belong to me. Every beautiful curve of hers belongs to me. Now that I'm home and done working for Uncle Sam, it's time to stake the claim I should have. Let's not repeat this because we don't want repetitive word choices, right? We don't have that many. I should have long ago. That works. I don't know what I was thinking of. Now that I'm home and done working for Uncle Sam, it's time to stake the claim I should have long ago. I know she's getting married, but that asshole doesn't deserve her. Gotta is not a great word choice here. Because it's not dialogue. So in dialogue, you can get away with like more grammatically incorrect stuff for the sake of it's like in a dialect or in, an accent or stuff like that. So gotta, wanna, stuff like that. On your back cover copy, it looks a little bit sloppy, like you haven't had a proper editor. So you're going to want to make sure that it's still in the character's voice, yes, but you're going to want to avoid things like that unless it's in spoken dialogue. So, because I've got to stop this wedding or we'll both regret it for the rest of our lives. So that to me is a little bit more dynamic. Again, few little notes like lean into these relationship dynamics up here, and then ... I think about Cooper Parks, the man who left. And then I would take out my sister's wedding because that makes a stronger statement. So at least that's how it seemed the last time I saw him. I moved on and the proof is waiting for me at the end of the aisle. Boom. Olivia Swanson is my dream girl. Every beautiful curve of hers belongs to me. Now that I'm home and done working for Uncle Sam, it's time to stake the claim I should have long ago. I know she's getting married, but that asshole doesn't deserve her. I've got to stop this wedding or we'll both regret it for the rest of our lives. So these are strong statements that he's making. So he's a man of action, and we see that right away in the voice of like his summary. And I do like actually the fact that the log line is from her perspective and then the call to action is from his. It shows a really great dynamic between the two lovers. So those are just some suggestions that I have for that one. Let me know your thoughts about that, or if anybody else has any questions or anything like that. It's still cold. Yeah, I think it did. It's because it's been on for hours. All right, last call. Anyone got questions, cover copies, anything like that? Hello. Hello. Oh. Okay. Email. By the way, all the books that I've been doing these cover copies for sound amazing. So, FYI. Let's see. Are y'all really? Oh my gosh. That's funny. Let's see. I need to see. Where's word count on Word? I don't use Word. Yeah, I totally forgot. Haha. Okay. There it is. All right, let me get this screen shared really quick. I love this so hard. We're having a watch party. More watching than you think. Haha. Thanks. Not to make me nervous or anything, since I'm like struggling to function on a laptop like a normal human being. Okay, so I sent you on more. This one I'm struggling with. It's in third person perspective. Third person is hard to write in, so I totally understand that. My young adult fantasy novel is in third person limited perspective, so it was incredibly hard. And I had to redo my cover copy several times. So even though I love doing them and I edit them for other people and stuff, I still have to go over them like a lot. It's not just something that, I just first draft and I'm just amazing at it either. It's a process, especially as you're like developing a book. So just don't want you to think, oh my God, technology. Think that I'm just like some sort of wizard or something here. Share screen. We're going to share one of Tara's here. All right, so let's read it first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So one of the reasons that I immediately was like looking for the word count, I don't normally draft actually in Microsoft Word. I normally do all my drafting in Google Docs, so I totally forgot where the word count was. Anyway, so it's 203 words. This is probably as long as I would go. Immediately, I looked at it and I thought, is this kind of over the word count that you would want? So this is pushing it. So anywhere where you can trim, you may want to. But let's read it because it may be so wonderful that we don't want to trim anything and it's perfect. Abby led a charmed life, or so everyone thought. No one saw the pain behind her fake smile. No one knew how she longed for an escape. She'd heard the fairy tales of some handsome white knight swooping in and taking the girl away. Except her knight wasn't white. He was dark and angry. Bad boy. She told herself she hated him. She wasn't the girl that fell for the brooding stranger that kidnapped her. Aren't we all that girl, though? One way or another, she'd get away from him, get away from them all. Them all who? Is my first question. Nick thought this would be easy. Go in, kill the monster, and save the girl. Maybe even get a taste of revenge in the process. The monster, not so easy. Vengeance, no longer important. And the girl, yeah. Kidnapping wasn't in the job description. He told himself he took her to protect her, that the cute little redhead was just a means to an end, a way to mess with the vampire that killed his parents. She was a job and nothing more. What happens when a girl running from her future and a man running from his past collide? Will they become pawns in something bigger, or can they turn the game in their favor? All right. Thoughts. I don't know what's going on. Initially is kind of what I'm thinking. So we know here that the two protagonists here are Abby and Nick. Abby led a charmed life, or so everyone thought. Why is it not charmed? No one saw the pain behind her fake smile. We don't have context for that. What's happening in her life that she's faking a smile that, everyone is seeing something that's not there? What is there? We need to know. No one knew how she longed for an escape. From what? From what? We need to know that. She'd heard of the fairy tales of some handsome white knight swooping in and taking the girl away. Except her knight wasn't white. He was dark and angry. So I like this, but it needs a little restructuring, this section here. So first, let me know what the stakes are for Abby, because I don't know what's happening with her. I have no idea. Something bad, but I don't know what. And as a reader, and as the first character that we're introduced to, we need to know immediately like what her goals, her motivations, and her stakes are, right? And you need to kind of distill that into something like, I would say something like Abby, whatever her last name is, maybe. I would do first last name. I'm going to make one up. I'm just going to make one up. Abby Nichols. No, because his name is Nick. Abby Summers. Abby Summers was the girl who had everything. According to, who's everyone? I don't know who everyone is. Her schoolmates? I don't know. Who's everyone? Define that. yeah, in the context of her life, like who's everyone? Is it the people at school? Is it, her family? Is it the people of her town? What's her town name? That kind of stuff. Get really specific, everyone in town thought Abby Summers had the perfect life or something. I don't know. That's not a very good first line, log line. Anyway, I don't know enough about Abby. I don't know why there's pain behind her smile. I don't know who everyone is, I don't know who no one is. No one knew how she longed for an escape. So we need a lot more specificity in a lot of this for Abby. She'd heard the fairy tales of some handsome white knight swooping in and taking the girl away, except her knight wasn't white. He was dark and angry, right? Haha! Okay, is the abusive boyfriend thing pretty immediate? I mean, we know that before she's kidnapped, right? Let me know when there's a response. Because like we have to know like her life sucks and why, so that when she's kidnapped, she's like, great, another thing, and then it turns out somewhat good, I guess, right? We don't need to know that like her family's in the mafia, maybe just that they keep secrets. They're seen as upstanding individuals or whatever. But we should know that she's like being hit by her boyfriend before she's like kidnapped away, right? Okay. So this comes back to my point of don't hold back the inciting incident, right? So if we know this before she's kidnapped, then that's going to be encompassed because the kidnapping is the inciting incident. So you want to include the inciting incident, and then you need to supply enough context that the inciting incident is intriguing enough to sell readers your book. So the abuse you definitely need to have in here, okay? Everyone thought Abby Weston had a charmed life. They didn't see the bruises she hid under her clothes, but they didn't see the bruises she hid under her clothes or whatever, right? Something like that, something really punchy, hook us in, make us care. Why should we care about Abby, and why should we care that her, she doesn't really have a charmed life and stuff, right? We need enough context for that. And then instead of no one knew how she longed for an escape, because we don't know who no one and everyone is, I think those are too vague. I would do something, my nose is itching, I'm sorry. I would do something a little punchier than that. So instead of no one knew how she longed for an escape, bring it back to Abby, her stakes, her motivations, every night, she thought about nothing more than leaving this place. Or, and then that can lead into the fairy tales thing, right? In sort of a segue section here, because this is a little bit clunky. Like this is a little bit clunky as far as Abby stuff, but you can lean into her a little bit here. Punchy line about Abby, allude to the abuse here. Everyone thinks she has this perfect life or whatever, but she's like being hit, and it's like horrible, right? Let us know that it's horrible. It's horrible. And she wants nothing more than to escape. At night she would dream about fairy tales from when she was a kid. Some handsome knight taking her away, from all of this, right? Yeah. Like relate it back to something that's like in the book, something really punchy and really good. Like, anyway, this should probably be by itself here, right? So actually, I don't want to do that. An ellipses. An ellipses is a really great tool in these cover copies, by the way, to help build tension because you don't have that many words. So a little bit of kind of what I said about Abby stuff, that really needs a lot of work to be more succinct, better word choices. Stakes need to be like immediately brought in. We need context for them so that we can care about her. Why do we care about her? Why do we want to buy a book about her, right? And then you kind of go into she wants to escape. She wants someone to take her away from this life, right? And we're relating it to a white knight. This does need a little bit of cleaning up, probably more than I can do on the stream. And then, except her night wasn't white, ... He was dark and angry. That's a really good line right there, right? We want to highlight that line because it's really like the epitome of the piece, right? Here she is, this girl who's been abused and all this stuff, and she's been longing for this white knight, only she didn't get the white knight. Like, she got this dark, angry dude who kidnapped her, right? So this is the twist in the cover story, in the cover copy, that's gonna like make readers go, oh, okay. She told herself she hated him. She wasn't the girl that fell for the brooding stranger that kidnapped her. So this is the first instance that we even know that she's been kidnapped. And it's sort of thrown in after the fact. But the inciting incident and the point of this is she gets kidnapped, and then these like enemies end up being lovers, right? So we want to highlight that. One way or another, she'd get away from him, get away from them all. So I don't know who them all is because we're not giving enough context at the beginning. So I would take this out completely unless you give more context in this earlier section here, right? She told herself she hated him, which indicates that she won't hate him later. But I don't think you need that. Except her night wasn't white. He was dark and angry, right? She wasn't the girl that fell for the brooding stranger that kidnapped her. One way or another, she'd get away from him. So that makes more of a statement, more of an impact right at the end. Now with Nick, let's go down to Nick. Nick thought this would be easy. Go in, kill the monster, and save the girl. Maybe even get a taste of revenge in the process. Monster, not so easy. Vengeance, no longer important. And the girl, yeah. Okay. What? Like, I don't have enough context for what's happening with these characters to know what the stakes are. Like, that's the immediate thing that I'm finding with these, is that I need more details so that I can figure out which ones are more important than the others. It seems to me that you're hiding a lot because you're not wanting to give away a lot of the twists of the book, but you need to give enough details and enough context so that we can appropriately understand what the stakes are, so that readers can know what kind of book they're getting and then want to buy it. So that's the biggest note for this whole thing so far. Nick thought this would be easy. Go in, kill the monster, save the girl. But is he saving her? He literally kidnapped her. So we go from kidnapping her to saving her. Which is it? You know? And vampires are apparently in this book, but we don't know that until here. And it's at the end of the cover copy. That is something that I want in the beginning, right? Like, I want to know that this is a vampire book. I don't want to get all the way to the end of the cover copy and go, oh, there's vampires in this? Like, because there is a huge market for vampire fiction, right? So it's an enemies to lovers. We have two protagonists. Yes, we need to do all of that. But, like, where do vampires play into this? You know, are they just like hanging around the edges and they sometimes like kill people and sometimes get killed? Like, right. Is it the vampire mafia, you know, that she's involved in? Tell us that, you know, like what do vampires have to do with this? We need to know that at the beginning for context. Like, we need this context so we know what kind of book is happening here. And also, if this is a romance, which it sounds like it is because of the dual protagonists and the fact that that some of the language that you use, that there's a romantic subplot here that's important. And the girl, yeah, that's very anticlimactic. I am not sympathetic towards Nick at all. It kind of sounds like he just does not care about her or the fact that he saved her, but then he kidnaps her. I'm confused. So I feel like I need more details. I need more to go off of here. There's not enough details that are like pertinent to the plot. You need to give more away so that we can figure out where to distill the themes, what's important. Vampires need to be way sooner. And I don't really like any of this. here. I would delete all of that. It just doesn't add anything to his voice, and it doesn't really add anything, I think, to like explaining anything that's going on, right? Nick thought this would be easy. Go in, kill the monster, save the girl, maybe even get a taste of revenge in the process. My kind of guy, an opportunist, right? Kidnapping wasn't in the job description. He told himself he took her to protect her, that the cute little redhead was just a means to an end, a way to mess with the vampire that killed his parents. So is she a vampire? Are her parents a vampire? Are her family a vampire? She was a job and nothing more. So we get the sarcasm and stuff in the voice of this. We don't need the the little stuff that I've deleted. Like that just kind of confused things. What happens when a girl running from her future and a man running from his past collide? Will they become pawns in something bigger? What bigger? Something is a very vague word. We need word choices key. We need specificity. We need better word choices here. Or can they turn the game in their favor? What game? I don't have context for any of these things. So, there's that. And if she is a vampire or her family are vampires, we definitely need to lead with that. Lead with that. Lead with that. Yeah, so those are my immediate suggestions. I think a lot of this like structurally needs work, so I can't really do kind of like I did last time where it was just really kind of minor stuff. It just needs a little more TLC than the other one that you had, which was also very good. I mean, you're obviously a very talented writer. You're very good. I can't function on a laptop either. Don't feel bad. Although I feel like I can function just fine until I'm live and people are watching me. And then I turn into a total goober. I don't know. And then this is the abusive stuff that you don't want to give away too much. Her last name is Weston. And then, yes, but it's not immediate. Okay. Yeah. So those are just my initial suggestions, more context. Don't be afraid to like give more away. So the thing with a cover copy is you're going to edit several times and do several drafts. So give context, write it to where the readers will have enough there to understand what's going on. You can always like edit and take stuff out, right? I think he's in there. Sorry for the baby crying. My toddler just woke up. So my husband's going to get him, but moment of silence for the little dude. Okay, he's calm now. Hashtag mom life. Anyway, anyone else have anything that they need to ask me at all? So we have been streaming now for almost 2.5 hours. I want to go over just again a couple of things that we did today. So we did formatting and length. Shorter the better, right? Log lines. We figured out the difference between log lines and taglines, what makes a really good log line, and where that should be in your cover copy and how it should relate to your cover copy. And we got some words of wisdom from Marilyn Atlas, who was amazing. Less is more, what to exclude, like histories and names and who wrote the letters and where they met up at and things like that. Word choice is key. So specificity in your word choices, because you don't have a lot of words, so you need to make each of them count. Try to get rid of redundancies, repetitive words, used in the same sentence. Try to take out filler words, which means you can use conjunctions a little bit more. Make sure that if you're using words like that are a little more, that unless it's in dialogue tags, that you're not using words that can be construed as like a dialect, are grammatically incorrect, because it looks a little bit sloppy on your cover copy, right? But if it's in dialogue tags, we know that that's the context for an accent or a regional, just idiosyncrasy within somebody's language. So it's a little bit different. But if it's not in direct, dialogue in quotations, then I would not use things like gotta, wanna, things like that. Spell it out. It makes the statement stronger. So word choice is key. Don't hold back. Don't hold back your inciting incidents. Don't hold back your immediate, catalyst moments. Don't hold back the details that are going to give context to readers, because that is going to be basically like whenever somebody reads your cover copy, they're wanting to attract readers who are wanting to read in your genre and who are going to like your book, so they review it better, and so that they, tell other people about your book. Word of mouth advertising. How do you do that? You get, you target the readers who are going to love your book. And the way that you do that is by making sure that they understand from your cover copy what kind of book they're getting. Doesn't mean you give them all the plot twists. There, I'm sure, plenty in your novel, but you have to give enough context for them to understand what kind of book they're reading. And one that I don't have a banner for is get to the point, get to it quickly. Don't put the juicy details in the middle or at the end. Put them right up front. Hook them hard and fast. We've all been there. Hashtag mom. Oh, tell me, my poor little dude. He's probably been listening to me on the stream and finally woke up and was like, yeah, I'm angry, because he's 2.5 and he's angry at everything. He's angry at the world. Anyway, so I think this is a really great stream. Let me know if y'all have any other questions before we head off. I'm gonna put a banner down here to be like, plugging myself, because people keep telling me to do that. The marketing part. It'd be really cool if you liked and subscribed and rang bells and did the things. That would be awesome. Really would. More scheduled content will be coming after the first of the year. Again, I do work full-time in cardiology in the middle of an international pandemic, global pandemic. So this year has been really light on content, but I'm really excited to move forward into next year with more scheduled uploads and stuff. If you are interested in any editing services, you can find that on my website, which I will go ahead and put the banner down right here. myname.com, basically. How's that for all the craziness? Thank you all for letting me actually do the edits of your cover copies. I think that's really brave of you. It was really fun, and yeah, I want to read all of your books. Kind of a problem. And if you're in the market for a young adult fantasy novel, I wrote one, so that would be cool too. It's indie published, so you're supporting small business if you buy one. And it's Christmas, so presents. It's way too close to Christmas to get this, probably. Anyway, see here. Abby, follow Lauren on social media. All are at Lauren. Yeah, I'm really not subtle. It's my name. Everything's my name. You are very welcome, Connie. Constance Connie. I don't know why I did that earlier. I really, really, really liked your progress tonight. Anyway, if anyone has questions or needs to reach out to me, everything is in the description box below. I have links to everything. This is really fun, and thank you all for joining me. I hope that this was informative and helpful and wonderful. And I love you all from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to say good night now. Good night.